Welcome back to O and Another Thing. Again, we're here for another week. We have a great program for you to take you into the weekend. On today's program, we will talk about Joe Biden and the question of how many Trump clips is too many Trump clips. We ask, has he succeeded in making a case for himself at all to this point with young voters, who he will obviously need to help in his case to beat Donald Trump in November, plus what this totally unqualified podcaster thinks Biden and his campaign should do with their advertisements going forward. But first, let's see which way the news goes. Leading off, 1,256,000 cases of coronavirus have been confirmed in the United States alone, and 75,497 people have died of the virus as of May 8th. Arrests were finally made after a video went viral this week of a father and son duo in Georgia hunting down and murdering jogger Ahmaud Arbery. The 25-year-old was out for a jog when video captured by a passerby on their cell phone of Gregory and Travis McMichael assaulting and then shooting Arbery in the middle of the street as he passed by their truck. This might just sound like another unjustified killing of a black person in America, and while it is that, it is also a big highlight on a larger debate about the ins and outs of America's criminal justice system that has been going on really for the larger part of the decade, but especially this week, interestingly enough, as authorities in Georgia have been investigating this case since the murder occurred way back on February 23rd. And warrants for the ex-officer McMichael and his son were just issued and carried out yesterday. The case has been investigated and handled by the same police department that McMichael was an officer at up until last year. The prosecutor previously on the case had said that there was insufficient probable cause to issue arrest warrants before recusing himself due to a conflict of interest, which is hard to fathom being that we again have video of Arbery being murdered in the middle of the street from a cell phone by a passerby. I don't know if they had the video until recently or if this video was just recently found. Either way, it points to either bad police work and not looking for every bit of evidence possible, or that they just weren't looking close enough or didn't care to look honestly at the evidence right in front of them. Nevertheless, we'll move on from there. The next prosecutor on the case, their second prosecutor, then tried to justify the father and son's actions by believing every word they said. Who, again, the father and son here, claimed that they were just trying to perform a citizen's arrest because they believe that Arbery fit a profile of a person doing robberies in the area, and that they were in the right to be brandishing weapons in a violent fashion, as it is allowed in the state of Georgia, arguing that the use of force was needed as Arbery had fought back to protect himself from the citizen's arrest. Now, citizen's arrests are, for one thing, legal. For a second thing, absolutely crazy. If you ever feel that you are yourself the kind of person to be in the place to do a citizen's arrest, if you think it is your place to be doing a citizen's arrest, those of us here at Own Another Thing politely ask for you to not do the citizen's arrest. It is, despite the glorification of vigilantes on TV and via superheroes like Batman and in movies and things, it's not exactly the coolest look in the world to be the person running around doing citizen's arrests, and two, it is clearly very dangerous, as we've seen here, because people that feel as if they are the person to be doing police work, even if they're an ex-police officer, that doesn't give them the right to be, one, racially profiling people, and then two, profiling people to see if they fit the identity of someone committing crimes in the area, because it leads to what? False identifications and murders, unnecessary murders and killings that are fueled purely on white fear and the belief that they saw something that they did not see, and feeling that since they are white people with guns, that they have the ability, the need, and their constitutional right to be the law and order of the country. So we're seeing a deeply rooted problem in the white psyche starting to manifest itself literally in the killing and hunting down of black people, which happens, as LeBron pointed out on Instagram the other day, that this has been happening forever, that black men feel as if they are hunted, and we are seeing proof of that literally play out in front of us. And we're seeing it. This case shows us how easy it is for black men to be killed black people to be killed, just black people to be more likely to die. It's been shown to us from the coronavirus even. We'll digress, but it has been shown that it is much easier for a black man to be killed than it is for a white man. How easy it is for white people to get away with doing it, and how happy local police officers and offices are to find evidence in favor of defendants to help cover up murders as long as they are white, and it also always helps to be a former cop or one of them. And I will say this, I know this isn't about police in this case, though the police have done a shitty job handling this case and investigating this case, and there's been mismanagement top to bottom for the better part of a month on this, and obviously it shouldn't have taken until yesterday for these two men to be arrested. There is something that is in police culture that I absolutely hate. I think it plays into this, and it is the kind of people that, well, you know, my family member's a cop. Well, I used to be a cop, or my brother's a cop, or something like that. Those people always use that to try to get out of things at some point or another. I had an ex from college who we were driving for no reason. Her mom was driving way too fast down a road. I don't know what was going on that we were driving 60 miles an hour down a residential road in the middle of Eastern PA. I have no idea why we were doing that. However, her mom is speeding in this massive Cadillac SUV they had. Police officer pulls us over, and she drops the, oh, maybe you know my redacted. He's a redacted with the redacted police force. All that being said, all the yada yadas aside, she gets off of that ticket. That should have been a massive fine, as she was again going well close to 30 over the speed limit. And two, exercising not only white privilege, but knowing who she knows, and I hate that shit. I hate that more than anything. I hate when people exercise the, oh, well, I know him, it's fine. It happens sometimes in the restaurant game, too, and I'm fine with it. Full disclosure. In my work, I work in a coffee shop. I work in a restaurant background. Service, if you will. Very good barista. I can make a latte cappuccino for you like you wouldn't believe. Pour over coffee, whatever you want. Want me to talk to you about bean profiles? I'll do it. But you know what I won't stand for? Is when people's friends come in. I hate this. Maybe this is me being awful, but I hate when people's friends come in and they sit down and they order this, order that, order this, order that, work their way through the full menu. Bill comes. Oh, don't worry, they're my friends, I'm taking care of it. And then you know what happens? Nobody gets a tip off that. The barista who's been making the drinks doesn't get the tip off that. Nothing, nobody gets charged for anything. It's willy-nilly, and you've put all this work in, and nobody sees anything from it. And I know we're helping friends, and I'm all for helping friends, but at the same time, if I'm putting work in on a latte, I want the tip for that latte. I'm not going to lie to you. I digress. Not what we're here to talk about. Back to what's going on in the news. These arrests are a small win for justice in this case. However, many, myself included, are very skeptical as we have seen these cases play out before, and it seems like every time it's ruled in favor of the murderers. So we'll see what happens here. All we can do is hope for the best, hope that, I mean, it's pretty plain in the video what happened. Pretty obvious what happens in that video, so as long as people just don't do what people tend to like to do and ignore literally evidence in front of them, I think we might have a big win for the rights of people here, but we'll see. Anyway. Incidentally, on the same day as all this is happening, the Department of Justice has asked and dropped charges against Mike Flynn. You guys know who Michael Flynn is. He's most famous for lying to the FBI about having contact with Russians and people working on behalf of Russian interests, while also working for those Russian interests, getting Donald Trump elected via an unprecedented disinformation campaign aimed at destabilizing America as a whole, also lifting of sanctions against Russia for their help, then lying to the FBI about it. Well, as we are learning more and more about how much it helps to be middle-aged, white, and have friends in high places, like the presidency you helped to steal, these charges are being dropped, or asked to be dropped, as evidence was uncovered that showed the FBI officials had exchanged the notes on how they wanted to go about the questioning of Michael Flynn, whom evidence showed was without question guilty of crimes against the United States and likely going to lie to these FBI investigators anyway. They already kind of had evidence that was going to happen. The notes all showed that they just weren't sure how to go about the questioning of Michael Flynn. Did they want to get him to lie to them? Would he lie to them? Just what I'm assuming is standard investigative practices about how you want to handle questioning somebody in a very high-profile case, something that you shouldn't just walk into willy-nilly. Do I love that the FBI sort of manipulated to get this confession out? I don't love it, but at the same time, if you're lying to the FBI, you clearly have done something wrong. Again, Flynn is charged with lying to the FBI, and not just once, twice. He put in 2 guilty pleas about lying to the FBI, saying that he lied to the FBI on 2 separate occasions. Now, the argument is that Flynn was forced to lie during his original questioning about his contact with Russian diplomat Sergei Kislyak, saying he hadn't had contact with him, when in fact all evidence they had already pointed to Flynn having not only made contact with Kislyak, but talking about lifting of sanctions against Russia in exchange for something else, and we always know what that something else is. The new argument is that Flynn's relations to Kislyak had nothing to do with the Russians meddling in the 2016 election and was an unrelated bit of corruption. It's the latest attempt by the Justice Department to make Russian meddling a non-story and a non-re-election campaign issue in turn, as everything these schmucks tend to do is for image purposes, which is funny, being that in focus groups that I have read about, and that I think that folks at Crooked Media did these and performed these in swing states, but they saw that the Russia thing doesn't move the needle either way. Most people don't care if the president had anything to do with Russian meddling or if Russia meddled in our elections. They'd rather it not happen. But they don't necessarily think it's an electoral issue. It's not something people care to vote around. So, again, it's a non-issue for most voters. It's a non-issue across the board, as we have seen that Russia is guilty of this, that the Trump campaign was guilty of this. It's been proven from multiple different oversight committees, multiple different reports, not even just the Mueller investigation, the House, the Senate. Everybody has corroborated the evidence, the findings of the intelligence community, and shown that Russia was a bad faith actor in our elections in 2016. They worked to undermine democracy to get Donald Trump elected, and they had the help of Michael Flynn and like 4 or 5, 10 other people to do it. So we have all the evidence we need about that. So for clarity here, conservatives, the president, and the Justice Department aren't so much mad at Mike Flynn for lying to the FBI about his contacts that they insist he didn't have to lie about, which should raise questions about why a lifelong public servant who very much knows the laws would feel like he should lie to the FBI about his contacts with a Russian diplomat. But instead, what they're upset about and what they think should get Flynn off here is that the FBI got him in trouble for lying to them, the FBI, which is a federal offense. Flynn is said to have discussed easing sanctions on Russia with Russians while working for the president's transition committee and being the president's first national security advisor. Obviously, not things to do if you're going to work in the president's administration. It's illegal to do that. That is why he felt the need to lie to the FBI about it. The president even tweeted about it when it happened. Many of you will recall there was a tweet, and it's been reposted quite a bit on Twitter, that says that Flynn lied to the FBI and lied to the vice president and a couple other things. But Trump knows he lied. Everybody knows he lied. They know that the crime has been committed. But however, again, as long as your crimes are done to benefit the president of the United States in a lot of cases, as it is with Michael Flynn, as it will be with George Papadopoulos, as it will be with Roger Stone, as long as your crimes have been done to help the president, all is fine, all is forgiven. Because remember, the president can do no wrong. Everything the president does is for the good of the country. Don't forget. 75 1,000 people dying is for the good of the country. Opening up too soon to kill more people is for the good of the country. All of this has been talked about for weeks. Back to the Flynn thing here. They've already talked about pardoning Flynn before. They thought that the FBI, whenever all this new evidence came out about how they handled the investigation, they thought that, pardoning was the only right thing to do. So this has been in the pike, down the pipe, whatever it is, for a while now. But what this is all a part of the weaponizing of the Justice Department for the president's own good, which is very scary. A lot of people should be slightly worried about that. Obviously, anybody who had a part in Trump's impeachment. Do not forget that this president has been impeached. And do not forget that there is a gang of angry Democrats who got him impeached, who did the work to impeach him. Every single one of those people, from Schiff to Lofgren, should be a little worried now that the president can have Department of Justice open an investigation into anything they've done. All it takes is for the president to weaponize the Department of Justice in such a way that he can use it as a tool to suppress freedoms of all of us. It starts with him holding power accountable. It starts with him using the Department of Justice to drain the swamp. By doing that, he opens up ways for him to put his own folks in there. We are running into an absolute constitutional crisis, another one. I think this is our 6th constitutional crisis in 3 years, and it's happening in the middle of a pandemic where we can't much do anything about it. Between Bill Barr being the new fixer and President Trump just being himself, this shows a lot of things. One of them is how important November will be, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But also that bottom line, in this country, you are safer being white and lying to the FBI than you are black, young, and out for a jog. And that's been proven this week because, again, we have 8 months to a year worth of evidence collected off years, I think 2 to 3 years of contacts with Russians and Turks and people working with Russians, from Mike Flynn, from other people around Donald Trump, from during his campaign and during his transition into the presidency. There is piles and piles of evidence, reports after reports after reports of wrongdoing by these people. A lie is not any more a lie, any less of a lie, I should say, because it was allegedly coerced. We were watching The Sopranos the other night. And I don't know if this is a spoiler for anybody, but in, I believe, season 3, this isn't a big spoiler. It's about whenever AJ breaks into the principal's office to steal the test results. Yeah. So they break in, AJ, Tony Soprano's son, they break in and they steal these test results. The answers for this test. They break into this principal's office, they take the answers for the test, and they get like 96 on the test. Both the students who stole the answers, they get this 96 on the test. The teacher realizes that they're cheating. They go to the principal's office, and the principal says something to the effect of, we already ran DNA tests on it. We have your fingerprints. We know it was you guys. And the kids fess up immediately because the principal fessed up to them, the principal coerced them by lying to them, saying that this high school in New Jersey in 2000, maybe 1999, depending what year season 3 was, 2000, 1999, regardless, had the ability to take fingerprints off of high school tests, get them checked to find out who stole results to a test so they could cheat. Regardless, they tricked this one kid. He confessed. AJ Soprano confesses. They get suspended and everything, or expelled. They get completely expelled, and the rest from there is history, and I'm not going to say anything more about it. But by the principal doing that, it doesn't change that the Soprano kid and his friends stole the results of those tests so they could do well on the test. So by the FBI finding a way to get Michael Flynn to lie to the FBI when he already planned on lying to the FBI, that doesn't change the fact that he lied to the FBI. And it doesn't change the fact that he committed, again, a federal offense worthy of jail time, worthy of scrutiny, worthy of being cast out from public, and seen as a pariah in American society, which is all these guys fight against. They know that once they're out of office, all they have left is their identity, and their identities are shot at this point. November is very important, and this is just another reason why, because as long as President Trump is allowed to be president, as long as William Barr is allowed to be the Attorney General, we are in a situation where we are headed for absolute police state stuff like this, maybe on a daily basis, be it from pardons, be it from random investigations of random politicians that are against the president. We are in a very dangerous spot here. I know it sounds alarmist, but look at the precedents in front of you and tell me it's not alarming. Moving on now to November, to the only thing we can do. It is election season, obviously. And the story right now is ads. It's the only thing anybody can really do. There isn't much else going on for Biden or, well, for Trump there's a lot going on, but he's not doing any of it. But nevertheless, they can't do more than Biden can do his virtual drop-ins and denials, and Trump can do the same things and has been forced to cancel his rallies after finding... He's been already forced to cancel his rallies, and he found that his coronavirus briefings weren't necessarily helping him electorally and, in fact, killing a lot of people. So they stopped doing those, despite the good ratings that he talked about. So while neither can go coast to coast right now in person, it's merely been a battle of the ads, which I think Biden is winning, but can only win with his current strategy for so long. What have Biden's ads been? Look how bad Trump is. Show that there is another warm body to choose from. That warm body happens to be Joe Biden. End ad, show logo, hope the rich people on Twitter get a hold, distribute to the poors, and hope the poors like it. That's the ad strategy right now for the Biden campaign. It's not a bad strategy, and you could say it's been somewhat effective. If you look at the polls, he's up 9 points in some places. He's up in a lot of swing states. Things look okay right now for Joe Biden. That's not all from the advertising, obviously. I'm still very wary. I felt better probably 2 weeks ago than I do today about Joe Biden. That being said, I still feel really good about Joe Biden being the nominee. I think that there's still a good chance that he can beat Trump, but that's neither here nor there right now. I guess it is here, but not what we're talking about right now. So we'll move on. Again, he's up 9 points. You could argue that's from the advertising. It's probably not. It's probably due to Trump's own performance because it tracks pretty well with his approval rating. He's at about 43% today. He's at about 43% in a lot of polls, while Biden's at about 51% in these polls. Again, 9 points. He's in that range. But likely after today's jobs report, where we see things not great, if we can be plain here. Obviously, having 14% of the workforce unemployed for the first time since the Great Depression, having the worst employment numbers since the Great Depression, going on Fox and Friends and saying you aren't surprised by the worst employment numbers since the Great Depression. And bad news to all of us who are unemployed because of this. He promises the jobs will be back, and we know what happens whenever this president promises something. So hopefully this is one he can hold up for us. He says they'll all be back, and God willing they will, because without that, there's probably going to be 14% of people unemployed for a good long time here. And again, despite optimism, I saw one thing this morning in Washington Post that said that I think 77% of people that are unemployed right now expect to go back to the job that they had previously, one of them. But economists are saying that it's very possible that 40% of those jobs won't exist in the new economy. Very good chance that, again, only that leaves 32% of those people go back to the jobs they had before, leaving, again, 40% of people kind of without luck. So we have to hope that he can bring those jobs back. Bad news, though, we know he probably can't bring those jobs back. So obviously, a lot will depend from these jobs numbers on who blames Trump for what. Do they blame the bad economy on Trump? Is this just something that happened to him? Like everything else in his life, bad things just happen to poor Donald Trump. He just, he walks outside. He's got this gray cloud over him. He can't go down to the McDonald's on Madison Avenue without people throwing things at him ever. It's just a sad time. Anyway. I think it's safe to squarely put the blame on him due to insufficient testing, government downplaying of virus. Private citizens had to respond radically, sheltering in place, staying inside, and being cautious to spend in fear of losing their own jobs. So again, a lot of this does slide back to Donald, and I don't think he can avoid that. And it's all going to depend, obviously, on how things shape up over the next few months with coronavirus. Everything's really off the table in terms of we'll having a good economy save him. Obviously, the economy is probably going to be bad for a while, so that won't save him. And you add in just everything else, and you add in these ads that have been effective. Trump does not have a good case because of that. However, with Biden's ads to this point, it may be time for him to pivot away from using all of these Trump clips against Trump to campaign against Trump. It's a good, effective strategy. Absolutely. It helps show how dumb President Trump is. It's not hard to do. It's effective. And the more you can show his incompetence, the better. However, it's best to let him show that incompetence. Let the media play with it. And so this is what I think. So what happens if Biden's ads up until November just keep being, look what the president did this time, look what the president said last week, look what the president said last night, how quick can we get these negative ads with clips and quotes from the president's own mouth out there? It's a great strategy because it makes him look bad. However, it's also a disjointed strategy. It's almost the exact same way we lost 2016. When we lost 2016, what happened was we ended up with a fragmented message. We lost the message that Republicans wanted to take away your health care. We took away the message that Republicans want to make it harder for you to make a decent income. And by the way, they're going to give more money to your bosses so that they can keep building their generational wealth so that their kids never have to work a day. But we're going to tax you more for it. That's the trade-off. We lost that message of what Republicans' ideal is for America. That thing that we are as Democrats and as hopefully good, honest, decent people wanting to have for a country. We lost that, and it became all about just what did Trump do? What can we hammer Trump on today? What dumb quote did he have? What stupid thing did he say? What can we call him today? How can we show he's a xenophobe, that he's a racist, that he's this, that he's that, that he's another thing? And it became an election of fighting off just Donald Trump and not an entire bad faith group of people in the Republican Party that are just swamp rats trying to ruin the world and benefit themselves, obviously, because while the world is ruined, they get to watch it all happen. So it's fine for them to do. But we lost that message because it became constant, look how bad Trump's doing, look at what Trump is saying in the news, look at what he said on this bus, look at this, that, and the other thing. It should be effective. It should be easier to make a case against someone being a shit human being, but that doesn't always help. So it might help for Biden to start thinking like this, or for the Biden campaign to start thinking like this. There are some very rich Republican groups, like the Lincoln Project most recently, that are willing to do the dirty work against Trump for Biden, which may be more effective anyways. They likely have a better reach with swing voters online than most Democratic groups who will be sponsoring ads also do. But there are people willing to do Biden's dirty work and keep the message on how bad Trump is, which should no doubt be a part of the narrative, not the entire narrative though. Also worth noting that a huge time spent in these ads is with Trump's voice, Trump's words, so it is effectively free airtime for him. So if there is someone out there that might lean toward thinking, well, I like what the president says from time to time, he's right about China, he's right about this trade agreement, whatever, he's right about the tariffs. If you have a swing voter who might kind of agree with that, and then they have the president saying it on TV in front of them, and it's in a political ad to try to make him look bad, you run into a slippery slope of someone saying, well, I agree with that, so now I totally don't agree with you, so fuck Joe Biden, I'm voting for Trump again. And it's a very slippery slope because of that, because if you do run that risk whenever if a swing voter does for some reason have a slight bit of sympathy for something Trump has said or something Trump believes in, or if it is trade or if it is the economy, and they for some reason still agree on Trump with the economy, then you might lose that voter. So it is a slippery slope for Biden to keep playing with that. Let the other groups do that. Let the Lincoln Project do that. Let, I don't know, concerned Republicans or whoever, any of these never Trump Republican groups that Trump's always complaining about on Twitter, or even some of the, even Act Blue, or one of the more Democratic, Democrat-leaning societies, organizations, whatever you want to call them, that's built into the DNC. Let them handle the work against Trump as a person. The Biden campaign should be solely focused, because again, there are enough people that go after Trump for who he is and what he stands for. Be all about the Biden campaign. You have a decent platform there, a platform that is ever-changing, growing, becoming more progressive by the day. I know it's hard to see that, because a lot of people get caught up in the progressive aisle as, well, if it's not Medicare for all, it's not a progressive candidate. There's a lot of good legislation being put forward by the Biden campaign. As long as healthcare still exists for a lot of people, that's a big win. Better life for working people, that's a big win. Higher wages, better workers' rights. He is for that stuff. I mean, it might not believe it because he's an old white man who's been in politics for years, but let me tell you, he at least has some good policies. He's at least worked with people. Obviously, he has his own things to fight through, but if he keeps the positives with his campaign, keeping health care around for people, again, a better life for worker, higher wages, better education, possible student debt forgiveness, there are things there for Biden to campaign on that make him look like the clearly better president than Donald Trump. Obviously, just the fact that he wants to keep health care as affordable is enough. Absolutely enough. Should be enough to get Democrats to vote for him. He has the policy to do it. Now, again, he isn't registering. This is the other thing we're talking about today. He isn't registering well with young voters. And there is an issue there. And that is his own fault. You can argue as much as you want about how far we can move Joe Biden to the left. We have to accept that we're never moving Joe Biden to a place where he's going to say Medicare for all is the way to go. We're never going to move Joe Biden to a place where he's going to say that he was wrong all along on the public option. It needs to be single payer. We're not going to get Joe Biden to change a vote from the past. It's not going to happen. He's cast his votes. He has his voting record that he's going to have to contend against. That's his own thing. But he hasn't done anything to reach out to, and I don't mean personally reach out, because obviously he's not going to personally reach out, but he hasn't made an effective argument for being a candidate for young people to get behind, because obviously the young voter is a disenfranchised voter. I am a young voter. We are in a room of young voters here. We have seen, again, nothing but elections in our time overturned from the popular vote because of the Electoral College. There is already a huge amount of disenfranchisement created by politicians that are literally just Joe Biden. Obviously, it's not just Joe Biden, but politicians from that same vein, from that same era, the typical politicians that have done nothing but, prop up what a lot of young voters consider to be a broken electoral system, a system that they don't believe actually works for them or that their voice is actually going to be heard in. So for Joe Biden to kind of ignore that and ignore that he has been that politician, or that he has been a part of a Washington that has allowed that to happen, he might need to say, you know what, I am part of a broken establishment. The part of the Democratic Party that I've been a part of has been nothing but trouble for a lot of working people. It has not led to the big progressive changes that Democrats should be pushing for, that we've always pushed for. Maybe my moderate wing of the party has become closer to a Republican Party, the Republican Party we'd like to see, than the Democratic Party we'd like to see. It's fine to say that. It's fine for Joe Biden to say, you know what, I won this election because Jim Clyburn gave me a tweetist endorsement brought on by the Democratic establishment. Own up to that, because that's what that is. Doing that will go a long way with young voters. Go a long way. And then there's something else he can do, and I think it's important for him to start selling himself as this Joe Biden, we talked about this in the bonus podcast on Saturday. If you haven't heard it, if you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. I'll drop a thing. I'll drop a tile or whatever it's called. On Tuesday? No, the vice president one. Wednesday then. Whatever day it was. Again, days don't matter. We've talked about it before. The days of the week don't matter. Whenever it happened, we talked about how Joe Biden needs to think of himself as just the bridge president to the next president, the next Democratic president. And if that means him coming out and saying that he pledges to only be president for 4 years, maybe that's what he has to do. Maybe he has to come out and say, you know what, I'm doing this for 4 years to get us back to some form of normal, to fix what Donald Trump broke. After I've done that, I'm leaving. If he says that, I think that goes along with young voters too, because a lot of us don't want to be trapped in a situation where in 4 years we're doing this again, and we're trying to figure out if Joe Biden can win another election against a Republican with his age. There's a very good chance that that's not a possibility. So it turns into being who the VP is, who is our next president, which is why, again, that his VP pick matters so much. Joe Biden needs to admit who he is and start running as a president to be the bridge president to the next Democratic president. I know I said president 6 times there, but I think that is the easiest way and the best way for Joe Biden to show himself to be, hey, I'm just a solution to one problem. Not all of them. And the problem he's the solution to is Donald Trump being president. And that's it. Aside from there, everything else is down ballot. Go vote so you can vote to get Trump out of office, so you can get down ballot people we want. There was polling that shows that Democrats are in a great place right now to take the House and keep the House and take the Senate. Imagine what we could do if we had just somebody sitting there that was a Democrat in the presidency. Just sitting there to get things done, passing it to the next person. Be it Beth Warren, be it, I don't know. Who could run for president in 2024? Julian Castro again? Maybe. Who knows? But we'd like Elizabeth Warren. I know. We'd like that. We would like Elizabeth Warren.
Maybe there'll be new people, right?
Yeah, there'll be new. Who knows? Maybe we'll have.
If he just pledges to support whoever the progressive candidate is, I think that would be good.
As long as he pledges to support whoever the progressive candidate is, that will be good. I was just restating it in case they didn't hear it on the microphone. So that's all Joe Biden can do now. He has to focus on the good of himself, let never Trump Republicans fight the anti-Trump battle, admit who he is, an establishment prop, and 2, allow it to be okay and say that he's only here for 4 years to fix one problem only, and that is Trump's presidency. After that, it's a new America. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week. We gave you 3 podcasts, gave you 3 episodes. Go back and check them out. Give them a watch. Give them a listen. Thank you for watching, for listening. Please subscribe to us, like us, comment on us, share us. Do everything you would do for a YouTube channel, a podcast that you actually like. Do that for us also. All right? Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week. More. Oh.